Hi, this is Don McAllister and welcome to another edition of Screencasts Online. Managing and accessing contacts on the Mac has always been a bit of a chore. The native Contacts app within macOS is functional, but it's been lacking for quite some time. Recently, Flexibits, the developers of Fantastical, released a new Mac app to address some of the issues of dealing with contacts on the Mac, and as they say, created a contacts app you will actually want to use. The app is called Cardhop,